Hi, James. Hi, Steve. Welcome to Eyes of Style from Eyes of Fashion. So excited to have you, all of you here.
Yeah, excited to be
Oh,
here.
yeah, likewise. Appreciate it. How are you? How are things going today? And are you back now, or are you still overseas?
Yes, I just literally landed in Paris just a few hours ago. So I am. So bear with me because I'm coping.
Thanks for making it work. We appreciate it.
So I am Eda Lu. I am based in Paris. I'm the chief fashion officer of Eyes of Fashion NFT. We're hosting the Eyes of Style Twitter Spaces, which we do mostly every week about different subjects of fashion. Obviously, Eyes of Fashion NFT is the NFT fashion project of Talia Soref, which is a fashion illustrator for more than 10 years. She's a regular in the Paris Fashion Week scene, and after the pandemic, she decided I need to do something with my art. And she basically went into Facebook groups. She's from Israel, and she found her co-founder in a Facebook group about, let's do a project with my art. And it minted 6 months ago, and it minted in 2.5 minutes. She has a pretty good fashion following. And since then, we have been building the community, building the brand, building and designing digital wearables, collaborations, partnerships, all of the goodies and fashions of the Web3, building also a brand, trying to, design new products and merchandise and do great collaborations with other projects and other Web2 existing brands. That's kind of us.
No, that's awesome. I love that, James. Do you want to give an introduction to Clubhouse real quick, and then we can start talking where the future of this space is going?
Sure, appreciate that, Stephen. Thanks, Ada. Appreciate the intro there as well, and the invite here to kind of share today. James Costa here. I am the founder and kind of creative director, if you will, of Clubhouse Archives. And at the end of the day, we really consider ourselves more of a luxury apparel brand that uses blockchain technology to enhance the customer experience. We're developing our own merchandise and apparel line because we do feel that the space has a serious need, a merch issue, if you will, as well as working with other brands, artists in and outside the space to develop apparel for them. So we feel pretty strongly about the future of Phygital wearables and Phygital NFTs and Phygital items in terms of what that means for things like the metaverse and what that means for experiential retail IRL. And I think that we're going to have an interesting conversation here because I'm pretty sure we're aligned in terms of the future and um, what we're both doing means for the future of fashion and Web3. So just excited to be here. And Steve, I don't know how you want to kick it off, or knowing you, I'm sure you have a host of questions.
I do. I want to kick it over to Ada first because I want to hear a little bit more about. Well, before we actually dive in, why are you in Paris? Because it's awesome to hear anybody's in Paris ever for anything. But before we even dive into the Phygital world, you mentioned you're in Paris. It's 11 p.m. there. You're jumping on late night. The grind never stops. But what are you doing in Paris? Out of curiosity.
Ooh la 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 la. Well, very cliche. So I am originally from Puerto Rico. I used to be a banker in Puerto Rico and New York. And after 15 years of doing the Wall Street thing, I was burnt out. And I've always been very creative. I used to be a dancer and did theater and modeling back home. And I decided, okay, I'm kind of old to be a Broadway dancer now, but I've always loved fashion. And that's when I decided I was going to try leave banking forever and just jump into a new thing. I started taking courses in person in New York City. I just started to build a brand with my family back home, with my mom and my aunts, because they actually know how to sew. I actually don't. I'm pretty bad at it. And the what was I gonna say? Then at that point, I also fell in love. So that's where the cliche comes. And and I moved to Paris after 2 years of being in a long distance relationship. And I decided, okay, then this makes sense. And I just, for the last 8 years, I just jumped, drive. I mean, I basically breathe fashion. I worked here for several fashion houses like Kenzo and Euro Paris until I finally started to build my brand in fashion accessories. And that's why I'm in Paris.
So that's pretty cool. And no better place to be for what you're doing, I suppose. So what? I guess like you started out in this obviously this physical realm, and then you're sort of found this digital world, but then you're also pulling digital into physical. So there's this back and forth sort of like synergy that's working. And I'm just kind of curious, like, how did you end up discovering sort of the NFT
Yes,
world in that
I,
way?
right. And that's, yeah, that brings us to what's happening now. So after, I would say, about a year, I went through kind of like the strategy of awards. So I did a bunch of competitions just to get my name out. And I did 1 year full production. And then at the end of 2021, I'm listening to, well, maybe in the summer of 2021, I was listening to Clubhouse. I was just trying to see what were the platforms that were really now engaging in new subjects and innovation. And I found a community in my hometown in San Juan, Puerto Rico, talking about the creator economy and how we're all creators and how we can, make a living being, doing our creative arts and what we want to do. And this community is led by Gary Henderson, and he actually then formed an NFT project, and that was my first NFT project, the Giraffe Tower project, which is a great community to start off your journey through the NFTs. And obviously, it did remind me of my finance world. It just kind of merged brilliantly, finance and fashion and creativity. So I was hooked the minute I got it, because let me tell you, the first 3 months, I have a friend here in Paris, Joanna, and she would take me to conferences and we would do all sorts of things. And we never spoke about NFT projects per se. We spoke more about the blockchain technology. So it took me a while to just get into the projects, just because I always told her, why didn't you tell me about the projects? Back in August of 2021, we were just trying to understand the technology first. So that's how I got into here, and I decided to stop production. I said there's something very meaningful in this space. And basically my first product this year was a book for women to learn about NFTs. It was not really a handbag, and I decided this is what I need to do. I need to educate. And through all of this learning, I'm investing in women led projects where obviously you can find great community, led me to fashion projects, led me to speak in a conference in Monaco where I met Talia. And then I met her in Paris, and then I met her in New York. And we started talking about, working together. And this is what we're doing now. Yeah, no, Talia is amazing. I fell in love with her art. I see lots of very interesting potential with collaborations with different brands with her art, and that's what we're building. And we're also trying to build a platform where creatives and designers and artists, emergent, independent like us, can also have a place where they can learn, they can evolve as an artist. So we're creating a platform called Eyes of Fashion Stash, because the word stash, which is actually spelled stage, means internship in French. So we're going to be creating a little internship for all of our holders to, get us through the journey, how to learn. We're going to give them access to courses like master classes, like Domestica, and some of the other creative platforms, so they can also use the tools that we ourselves have used to get to where we are in our careers, and help them as much as we can to just keep providing value. And obviously, we love fashion, digital fashion, and we love obviously physical fashion. So we have created several wearables in Decentraland. We're working with other wearables that are going to come out soon, and we also have a partnership with Anywhere, where people can use the art of Isa Fashion of Talia and design their own garments, their own dresses with different um, fabrics that will have the different art.
No, that's great. I love that, and I love that you're working specifically. Like, I mean, it's funny. Like, that was actually a passion of mine when I was in the corporate world, was trying to particularly help women in the workplace, particularly, but underrepresented people in general, I think is very important to be caring about, but women in particular, because I saw like the best boss I ever had. I saw some of the times when she got passed up on things, and it was always tough to watch, as knowing how great she was and what an impact she had in my life. So I love that you're taking that on as a passion project. I think that's so cool. James, I want to go over to you and actually ask the question. So I don't know if you've told your story many times about how you actually got into the blockchain world. I mean, you told me how it clicked. I know about a little bit about your past, but if you could kind of let everybody else know, like, how did you find your way into this weird world of NFTs, going, kind of growing up, so to speak, in the fashion world?
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, about, I guess, right around 2015, I was working for a brand called Jack's New York. I inevitably left that around that time to start my own brand with Jared Cook, who was the tight end for the Chargers. He wanted me to co-found a brand with him called Nifty Genius, and we ran that together for about 5 years until I actually I started investing in Ethereum and blockchain, I would say probably in 2019 at the very end of the year there. So just before the big dip, and then inevitably kind of the big explosion. And around that time, my old business partner was starting to um, dabble in NFTs through these digital cans that he was creating. His name's Greg Mike. And things were going well at Nifty Genius, and things were going well with my investments. But I started to take notice of what he was doing, and the more and more I started to kind of peel back the onion layers, I was like, "Wow, this is really interesting." And I gave him a phone call, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing here? Now you're creating digital art. What's going on?" And when he explained it to me very briefly, I was instantly intrigued. Um, just for whatever reason, he had mentioned a couple things, and it wasn't the money necessarily. It was more about the technology that I had already invested in, and the way that I could kind of see a bridge that, for whatever reason, to apparel, even in that conversation. And I remember asking him, I'm like, "Can this be done in apparel?" And he was like, this is going back, mind you, this is February of 21. So before kind of everything really exploded. And he said, I know you well enough to know that you mean actual apparel. And I was like, yeah, like, is there some play here that you could create actual apparel and somehow, NFTs, and, is there some sort of a link there? And he said that he'd heard that there were paintings that were being linked. It was very new tech, and it was really, really still needed to be developed. So I took 6 months to kind of write a business plan, because in that instance, I knew that inevitably I was going to leave what I was currently doing, and I inevitably did. An opportunity arose for me to sell the equity of that company, and I did so, and dove headfirst into Web3, because I had this thing in the back of my mind that I couldn't shake. Um, Linking a digital asset to a physical good, and enhancing the experience somehow through that. And then the business plan that I did take 6 months to write, you know, kind of brought us to where we are today in terms of utilizing the NFT, kind of as the gateway, right, to um, all of the value that can come along with that. And we can talk about all that as we kind of move along. But really then tying that to the physical good. So every NFT would come with a physical twin, um, and we would link them by NFC chip. And that was what I came to find out, was that link that he was talking about. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was really, really by seeing one of my old partners kind of do something really cool in the space. And he's done it several times over at this point. But my epiphany was when I really started to read about the technology and understand how it was going to kind of change everything. So that's kind of the simple backstory, if you will.
Yeah, and then I guess, like, just a follow up to you is that the logical thing, that's how you got into it. You decided to create this business plan. What is the hole in the market that you are trying to fill, and what are the things that you're looking at from that perspective? Because you have a passion and a clear point of view, I think, on the issue that we're dealing with, not just from what your initial point was, but since you've developed that idea, you've seen a lot of, I guess, questionable merch come along, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, and Web3 and NFTs have a merch problem. I know this, you know this, and most everyone knows this. And it's, we're slowly but surely addressing that. But what I did when I decided that, look, there's a real opportunity here, the first thing I did was, obviously you got to do product market fit and kind of understand the audience and everything else. And I looked out there and I didn't see anything. And in most instances, that's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. Because I believed in the technology, though, I saw that as a really huge opportunity. There was no one in the space really doing anything like this. Uh, and when I say like this, is the fact that we wanted to just be an apparel brand born on the blockchain. So we're going to produce apparel in the same way I've done in the past 23 years, designing, developing, and producing collections. That's not going to change, right? That mechanism of what I know doesn't change. What does change is the ability to enhance the experience through the blockchain, right? So all the utility that you can provide with the NFT and all the incredible things you can do with that. So I looked at the market and I said, first off, the immediate thing I noticed was there's no one here. Then over the next year and a half, what I started to notice is, wow, there's no one here. And it's even more painfully obvious because everyone that tries to put out, quote unquote merch is doing a really bad job. I mean, minus a couple exceptions, it's safe to say that overall, it's been a lackluster experience and there's leaves a lot to be desired in terms of what's been put out. So the opportunity kind of changed, not from there's no one here, but there's no one here and we can be the provider to all of these other businesses and other brands and other artists that are in the space, because they, that isn't their experience, right? They're either developers or just general creatives or artists, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they were, designers or developers or know how to run production.
I love your project. I've actually, because I actually, I hear your show, Captain's show, every morning. That's how I saw you, I think, at some point. And I remember following, some of the things that you're doing. I was like, that's kind of cool. And it's interesting when you mentioned the technology, because I started in February or January, when I started to get some of my close friends to come into the space, into NFTs, talking a lot about NFTs. And I've slowly changed some of the dialogue into the blockchain technology. My last chat in Puerto Rico, I said, I want you all to really take away not about just NFTs, but also the technology behind it, because NFTs will evolve, will change probably as because it's a space that evolves very fast. But the blockchain technology is what I want you all to really understand and see that there's a future for this, and there will be utilities that are endless for this. So I really love the project that you're doing.
I sincerely appreciate that, and it's, I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't easy to kind of develop this in a space and in an environment of, you know just the environment of the way the space is developed in terms of the way the consumer looked at projects, right? It was really to buy and very quickly kind of sell, right? To flip, as we call it. And that was just the way the space developed, for better or worse, right? Um, so it was tough over the past year and a half to develop a business, and I wanted to launch it last year, to be honest with you, but I just, there was a couple things that needed to catch up. I wanted to solve the securities issue, because I really wanted this to be something that you could provide some sort of benefit back, and then also I people that I told were just kind of baffled. Like they didn't even understand the fact that we were trying to develop an actual business. So I appreciate all that, and I'm glad that you attend Coffee with Captain in the mornings. Um, I've been listening to them since December, and I'm to say I'm a maxi of what they're doing is an understatement. And and Steve's obviously a part of that, so I'm giving him some flowers.
No, appreciate the kind words, and really really excited about what both of you are doing. Honestly, I think that it's a needed thing, and I'd actually go back to you. So I know talking about the idea of turning Talia's art into physicals is really cool. I like, this is a sort of probably a selfish question, because I'm trying to get myself. I've been so lucky. I was saying yesterday that the fashion community has adopted me as like their pet project because I have zero fashion, but I'm starting to grow into my own and trying to figure it out and trying to at 39 actually reshape my life to being a little bit better. Are there going to be things that would kind of work for males in that line, or is it like female empowerment? Totally cool. I get that. Like, I'm just curious what that looks like.
We are an inclusive community and a diverse community. So I would say to start, you will think that obviously we'll go into some of the fashion brands that are mostly targeting women, but I do believe that we should definitely incorporate something that will be for everybody, because I that's part of and I didn't tell the story about the eyes, but the eyes represent the judgment that Talia has felt over her 10 years being in the fashion industry, which can be, as we all know, toxic. And I love that the Web3 space that we are in, it's nothing like that, especially with the fashion projects and some of the other um, movements that are out there. So I just that I feel that definitely, because we, with the eyes, there will be something that we could do very playfully for men, but we that's part of our main mission, right? It's this judgment, and we want to be diverse and inclusive. So yes, definitely.
No, I think that's great. I think it's good to hear as well. And then what is your general take on? So James mentioned, hey, the fashion in Web3 has left a little bit to be desired. Curious what your take on that is with your extensive background in that area. And obviously you're bringing some of that flair and some of that spice to the space. But what's your take on the fashion industry? I would say as a whole within Web3 and how it comes in.
The other day, I had a conversation with a friend of mine that works here about men, and she said something that really stuck out. I stood out to me. That means, which said that we are not going to be in the Web3 space just because we have to be in the Web3 space and we have to run to it. Like, it has to make sense to us, because some of the things that are out there, especially some of the metaverse fashion shows, are quite frankly not that aesthetically pleasing to see. They're not 100% what will represent a brand, especially a fashion house in Paris. So I think that there's still a lot to be done. Obviously, the technology for even showing this, it's going to keep evolving. Us wanting to go into fashion shows in the metaverse is also going to improve, and all that. I think companies like the Fabricants are doing a great job. Now what I'm seeing with Clubhouse is also like quality. Like, I was just looking at some of the videos with some of those the sweaters, and I'm like, it makes you want one. And when you see some of the others, just because they need to go quickly, be in the space, but they have not really consider all the aspects of how aesthetically pleasing it should be, that you really want to have it. So I think that's truly important, and I think that there's space for that. Somebody that we have always looked to is more in the accessory space is Rebecca Minkoff, because she's from the beginning, she's also started to include a lot of the technology like QR codes and all those things, but she was very early to the game. So it's been interesting to see how she's evolving that, and now she's using technology that she invested quite a few years ago. Now it kind of makes sense, and that's a good example of in my opinion, of a company that it's taking that consideration. And others are going to come. Obviously, some of the couture houses in Paris are concentrating a lot on gaming, and the gaming and the wearables for the gamers. So I am very interested to see what's going to happen here, as these gamers want to wear the Gucci shirt, or they're going to want to wear the ISO fashion shirt or the Clubhouse shirt at some point. But I feel that we still need to come to terms to some of those things, as the balance between, okay, we need to be innovative and be in this technology, but we need to do it right.
No, I think that's a super interesting way to kind of almost look at it as well. Is that, James, I'd love your take as well on, I know you have some strong feelings about how fashion is being approached in relationship to, like, maybe not having somebody who's a fashion expert do it, and then that merging of brands. I know you've made some analogies of that before.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm so glad to hear that you had that conversation with someone in Palma. I thought I was taking crazy pills for a long time, and I'm happy to see that there are individuals that far up the food chain that are sharing the sentiments of kind of what I've been thinking. And I've been vocal about it to an extent, but look, I'm not here to flood anyone's what anyone's really doing. I just kind of speak my opinion in my mind in terms of how I think we can probably advance it and do better. And I'm of the mindset, and I subscribe to the belief that we can do much better in terms of what we're putting out as an industry in this space. When you talk about fashion shows and things like that, especially some of the big money that's flowed in certain places is kind of made me scratch my head a bit and really try to understand what's going on there behind closed doors. And you can tell there's a lot of alignments happening and things like that, which is great, and I get that. But in the same token, it's also creating experiences um, that cause reactions like the one that you just spoke about, right? And that kind of sets us back. It was also interesting what you noted in terms of, I guess, the style at which people decided to kind of start at. And we took, obviously, um, a very practical approach, and that was very intentional. I could have gone the gaming fantasy route, Ready Player One kind of thing, which is, I think, what a lot of people did. When they first got into the space, they kind of viewed this as like, this is our opportunity to kind of, you know, go crazy in terms of stretching the limits of physics and reality, because this is all going to be VR, right? When in reality, what I think is going to happen is this is going to be a very thoughtful, intentional transition that's probably going to go through AR before it reaches VR. I do think wearables are going to be a thing, but I think a majority of the individuals are probably going to take a somewhat more practical and sensible approach to that, which is why we kind of started in this way. And we also knew that we wanted to tie to the physical. And in order to do that, I couldn't just go out on a limb and start designing things that could only be worn virtually, right? So my take on what's going on right now, I do think there are a lot of people that aren't from a fashion background. Once again, nothing wrong with that. If you look at some of the major designers in history, Giorgio Armani, and actually a lot of the major fashion houses, um, the original creative director, either came from the medical profession or industry, or I think Ralph Lauren was a tie salesman at Brooks Brothers before he got in. So it wasn't necessarily the traditional route. So I'm fine with that. The only problem is when you don't know what you're doing in terms of development and production, you start to get product that shows that, right? It would be like, so I often liken it to, like, someone that's like, I'm a Corvette enthusiast, so that makes me a mechanic. And it's like, no, that makes you a lover of cars, but I'm not going to go to you to fix mine. So I think when we take that approach and we don't really have the tools necessarily to develop the right product, you start to get these situations where people are going and buying blanks and just printing in squares, right? And that's created an environment where a lot of people, especially ones that have paid a ton of money to be in certain projects, are getting really, really poor representations of what I think the project really wants to put out. But that's because you've got somebody in charge. It's like, I want to be a designer. I'm going to be the creative director, and I'm going to go out and make this product. And then inevitably, they kind of fall short of the mark on that, and we're seeing a lot of that. So that's just my take on what's going on. I'd love to see a lot of these big projects hire individuals like yourself and myself and others that do have the experience. And that's actually what we've found is a viable model. I mean, we're working with 5 different projects right now to do just that. And we hope that more start to come out of the woodworks when they see when they see the development and the advancement of that. And Ada, I think we should talk too. I think there's some conversations we can definitely have together. There's some probably incredible things we can create together. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing, especially from the empowerment side. So anyway, I just went off on a tangent. Sorry, Steve. I'll land the ship and let you take it back over here.
Before we go into Steve, I wanted to just, I mean, you bring a valid point. I mean, production is not. I mean, you have the experience. Production is. I'm sorry to say, but production is a bitch. Production is hard. Production is you got to do it right. So I feel that that's where partnerships and collaborations are going to be very important to work with, like people like projects like ourselves would have a lot to gain and have a lot to offer by just entering into special unique collaborations and partnerships.
I totally agree. Actually, that's the direction I was going to go. Is that I do think that a lot of these big NFT brands, as they grow, you look at some of them, and I get it. Like, Bored Apes, and you look at like Doodles, and you look at these other ones that have dropped some of the merch, and really the one that sort of seems to have done it the best from my experience, and I've seen a few. I think Gutter Cat Gang has done a good job. I think, James and I will debate over whether a fanny pack is a good thing or not. But I think that Moonbirds has like a distinct, like, hey, we're leaning into the fact that we are. Because look, I think like I'm in the Moonbirds community. I am a tech geek. And I'm like, oh, I get this. Like, they're leaning into like, we are the nerdiest nerds of all time. And we don't care if we're wearing fanny packs. Right. And it's like, there's something to be said about like, fashion being a representation of who you are and feeling good and having a pep in your step when you walk around. And I think, for nerds, it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I have a fanny pack. For Bored Apes, if you're producing, 100% cotton merch that doesn't necessarily, it's supposed to be streetwear, but doesn't necessarily stand up, well, then that's not necessarily representing who you want to be. And with Doodles in this weird world, it's like you have Pharrell on as a chief branding officer. You should be peak fashion, I feel like, at that point, right? And so I think that there is an opportunity, to have the pairs for people like, yourself and James to be working with them on that sort of stuff. So I guess let me ask this, and this is like one of those weird sort of pie in the sky questions. We'll go Ada first, and then we'll go to James. Ada, if there was like one NFT brand in the space, it can be anybody. It can be Bored Apes, it can be Doodles, it can be Gutter Cat Gang, who's done a pretty good job of it. Who would you work with, and why? It could be World of Women, it could be anything.
Well, obviously, I saw fashion, and that's why I'm here. I was a holder, and immediately fell in love just with the art, with Talia, her mission. But obviously, I see the potential on the commercialization of the art. So that's one. I like what Cool Cats have been doing. I missed that the what they did in New York because it was the last day and they kind of stopped it before I got there. I actually lost or left at my mom's the I got an ape hat, an ape trucker hat at the Ape Fest in New York, and I actually like the store that they had on the Ape Fest in New York City. I thought that was really cool what they did there. I'm sure you went and you saw it. It was pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah, I also have that. I have that trucker hat. I have worn it on calls with James, and it actually is sitting out right now. So I think the trucker hat was pretty solid. I agree.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I think I left it in Puerto Rico. I mean, it's now kind of it was black. I think it's now like gray because I used it in every beach day that I did. So I need more of that definitely. But in terms of like what we're doing, so that's another thing that you brought up. It is since if we want to be, obviously what we are, a fashion project, so we want to take our design to the next level. So our first collaboration and merchandise is with a jewelry designer called Alma Love. And she has designed with Talia amazing jewelry pieces. I'm trying to find the post so I can put it up here. And with the art, especially with the eye, they have bracelets, necklaces, earrings, and they look so even like a pin. Like I need to get one of those pins so whenever I'm like in the conferences and things like that. I really love that just because it for us definitely we all want to wear hoodies and all those things because we're virtual workers, we're at home, want to be comfortable and all those things. But we also needed to take it to the next level of design because we're also a fashion brand that loves Paris fashion, that loves, New York Fashion Week. So we have that very present in mind for our collaborations when we do the merchandise for our holders.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. And that's more what I meant is like if you're collaborating and bringing in collabs with the project, because I think they desperately need our help. Looking up top though, real quick before I go to James, just want to call to everyone in the room. We do have a Spaces link up top that if you like and retweet and join the Clubhouse Archives Discord, you have the opportunity to win a Clubhouse Archives NFT, and that's a James. What's the value with the current value of ETH of that right now? It's like a 0.33 or so.
I think it's point. Well, actually, yeah, because now it's up to 16 something. 0.35, I believe.
Cool. So 0.35 value, have the opportunity to win one of those if you retweet. It's up in the Jumbotron if you look up top. One of the pinned tweets, just the one that says join us join us in Eyes of Fashion at 5 p.m. today. So retweet that. It's up in the Jumbotron if you're looking for it. Just to give a quick retweet to. James,
Oh my
I'll take.
God, I want one. I mean, that's amazing. I've been just lurking in your website for the past few days. I need to get myself on it. It's great. So everybody here, great opportunity to win one.
Yeah, no, I think it's for sure. It'll be a very cool thing. Working with James on it. I'm the chief culture officer. James obviously has 20 plus years of fashion industry experience, and he's leading the charge there. And very cool, great opportunity. And actually, if you get one of those, if you buy one, you get automatically one free garment. We're making a Hodl sweatshirt, which is really cool. It's like a crew neck, and it's the type of thing that you could actually wear out to like a decently nice, restaurant and feel like you can have that wink, wink, nod, nod that I'm in the Web3 space, but also, respectably wear it. Like my mom won't be looking at me like, why are you wearing a hoodie with an ape on it when I go out? So it's good. James, would love your take. So anyway, like and retweet that up top as I mentioned. It's up in the Jumbotron. James, what is your sort of ideal dream sort of collaborations, or if you can name a few that you'd like to work with? I have a feeling I could probably guess a couple, but I'm curious.
Well, first off, I see Goody down there, so the Jumbotron. We can check the bingo card off on that, and not the coffee with Captain Space. I noticed how you reiterated that. Wow, interesting question. Couple things. First off, we already have 5 businesses or projects that we're currently working with to produce apparel for. 2 of them are getting ready to go into development. We announced Links DAO quite a while ago. I think like 4 or 5 weeks ago. We've started presenting merch to the team there, and so that was my original, going back a ways when I first heard them kind of launch back in January. My wheels were turning, and I immediately thought, like, wouldn't it be really cool if we partnered with them one day? So that was kind of my original. Then the other 4, we're not ready to announce yet. I've got to finalize a couple things this week in terms of them selecting exactly what they want. They want to announce it to their community. We've got a digital opportunity where we're actually going to just be doing solely digital wearables. And there's a massive brand that's doing physicals that we'll also be replicating for. So there's kind of a 3-way collab that's going to happen there. And then there's a multi-billion-dollar company that we're trying to work through things now with. But they seem just as excited as we are to get something going. So there's a lot of opportunities that we have in the fire. So the reason why I mention that is I don't want to discount any of that with my answer. And I think you could probably guess what my answer would be. Like,
Can I guess? Can I try first to say?
You can go for it first. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to guess because like I don't think it's the
Actually,
obvious one.
give me the top 3.
Oh, okay. Now this got harder. Okay. So I think I was going to say Doodles being on the list because I know that you kind of see some of what they're doing. And I know you were really impressed with them in NFT NYC, and they have some big time merch opportunities. So I had Doodles heavily on the list. Top 3. Now I got to think. I think like Bored Apes and Yuga is obviously a given, or generally speaking, because they'd be great to work with. I think it would just be a cool, obviously they're sort of like, top dogs in the space, at least at the moment. Would the third be Proof? I don't know if you'd be going there right now. So I don't know. Tell me how unbelievably wrong I was. Let's go.
No, you were pretty spot on actually. But not in that order. So without getting too far into it, we had someone in our key society that the night before we were going to release their token hit me up with a random message that said, I'm working with a large NFT brand, and unfortunately, I'm not allowed to promote another project. And I the timing was very odd for me, and I didn't believe it. And then it ended up being correct, and I'm going to just leave it at that and say that my number one, my top would be, and there is an outside opportunity there down the line would be Yugo, would be Bored Ape. I think that even your piece with along with Captains and a few others, just seeing what that came out to look like, inspired me to want to do an entire collection there. In the vein and in the era of what those pieces are, and I've actually in the background already started working on some things there. So I would like to. That would be awesome if we could present to them and get something like that done. Doodles was number two, and that's the opportunity to create alongside one of my idols in terms of like, I don't know if people know about what Pharrell did with ice cream and Billionaire Boys Club and whatnot in the streetwear industry, but he's pretty incredible, and he actually was very hands on with that. So I'm expecting big things from them. That's probably more of a long shot because I think they brought him on for a very intentional reason, and that was to run that side of things and to really develop out merch for them. And when I say merch, I mean really just probably a high-end streetwear line that makes a lot of sense, and then also some children's wear there that also equally makes a lot of sense as well. So there's a whole broad audience that they are so positioned to be very successful. It's disgusting. The third, um, to be honest with you, it was Moonbirds. And that was before the whole kind of thing went down. But I'm still having conversations with a lot of Moonbirds. We're actually starting a sub parliament called Royal Plume, centered around all of the Moonbirds that are interested in fashion.
Oh, you're all the way back in. Look at you. Look at you
Yeah.
all the way back in.
So, well, look. Yeah, we're not going to go down there. I definitely liked the announcements, and the footwear brand thing obviously reeled me back in hook, line, and sinker. But yeah, those would be my top three. Goats has an incredibly strong community that I would love to do something with. So there's still conversations to be had there. I still think they're oddly enough, and I'm saying this over mine, like they're just my favorite community because they're just awesome. I play poker there every Monday night with them, my wife and I, and they've got a great thing going on there. So I'd love to do something for them in the future. And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of collaborations. Like I said, I'd love to do something with Eyes. I think we could do something incredible together. But if that was my top three list for you there that I'd kind of been thinking about for the past however long, that's it. And you were pretty darn close, Steve.
I had the right brands, the wrong order, just pretty close. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, Yugo would be awesome to work with. I think in general, just because they have the user base, they have the right, I think, target market for fashion in a lot of ways. Because I think that a lot of people in there would be interested in starting to sort of step that game up. So I think it's a great piece. So I totally am with you. I want to throw it back your way. And I know we've been talking a lot about sort of other brands, and we've hit on the project a little bit and how we're going. I guess like in a dream scenario, like looking at like Eyes of Fashion, like where do you think Eyes of Fashion is in 5 years from now? Like the big dream, like everybody's walking around wearing the metaverse, wearing Talia's clothes, or like what is the big dream if you're like looking at it like 5 years from now?
Well, the big dream 5 years from now is obviously that it's already a recognizable brand and a recognizable art in the sense that you will see it just like you see now. Oh, that's a Bored Ape. Like you will see and say, oh, that's Eyes of Fashion from Talia. A collaboration with something like like a perfume from, Mademoiselle, or the little, I don't know if somebody knows this, the little robe, the little black robe, which is one of the Guerlain perfumes, like makes total sense. Things like that. Obviously, something with Dior, obviously could be. I'm sure that it's in Talia's dream. So somebody, a big brand from Paris, definitely something that we want to accomplish, and I'm sure we will.
That is interesting. It's almost like the idea of, to your point, like carving out like a new, completely new fashion brand recognized. Not like, so it's not like it's a web, and tell me if I'm missing the mark here, but it's like, it's not that it's a web 3 fashion brand. It's a fashion brand that happens to take advantage of the web 3 world, right? It's not like, oh, it's not like this like gimmicky web 3 fashion brand. It's a legitimate fashion brand that's recognized like all the others, but it happens to be ahead of the curve when it comes to tech. Is that sort of accurate?
Yeah, and it goes back to what we're talking about, the technology. A fashion brand that is using the blockchain technology. Both fashion and art, definitely. Using the blockchain technology to promote that, to make products and designs, not just fashion but also art. Like Kalia is now, has been chosen to do the exhibition of Frida Kahlo that is happening now, and she's we're having some of the art come out this week for a raffle for the holders. So it's also a combination of that. But I feel that the most important thing, I mean, obviously our mission is to help other emerging designers, artists to do that, to get there without having to have the challenges that we have had, doing it ourselves in the real world. But yes, definitely, our dream is to be a fashion and art recognized brand.
Love it. And James, as I kick it back your way for a similar question before that, just reminding people, worth about 0.35 ETH. Look up in the Jumbotron. You can scroll back and see Clubhouse Archives NFT. Join us, Eyes of Fashion, at today at 5 p.m. Give it a retweet. Only 10 retweets right now, so that's a solid chance to win a 0.35 NFT. If you haven't hit the retweet button on it, go ahead and hit that. I'm going to be pulling up App Sortios here in a little bit to help pick a winner and figure out who's going to get that NFT. But James, similar question to you, I guess. With this, like, what is your sort of dream of Clubhouse Archives, I guess, in 5 years, and where do you see it as far as like being like a fashion brand? Like, what is your goal? If you were to snap your fingers in 5 years from now, you're like, wow, I hit it. What is that?
To be honest with you, there's a few different things that I could hit on that. And look, we would love to be recognized as kind of one of the, and I don't know what the word's going to be, whether it's Phygital or Meta Brands or whatever that is, to be producing both IRL and digitally, right? But to be really honest, if we can have our model up and running, we've got these 5 brands that we're already producing for, and that's generating revenue for the company, right? That's to prove out our business model, to be a provider for the space, right? To have our community satisfied with the return that they're making if they did the 1099 option, in terms of being able to participate in the development of the brand, and then being compensated for that. Like, if that whole thing is up and running, that'll be satisfying for me. Do I have aspirations of any specific numbers and or goals? No, I would love for the space to recognize us for what we're trying to be, and that's a provider of quality apparel for other brands, in addition to the brand that we're creating for the space, right? And I think that would make me extremely happy and satisfied in terms of where we can be positioned. Obviously, you know, we have plans to go outside the space, so we do want to work with existing retailers. So by that point, I imagine that will come to fruition, which would kind of lead back to the initial statement of kind of being recognized as um, one of those initial brands, one of those pioneers that really took a leap when other people were dipping their toe in, if you will.
No, I think that's great, and I think it's awesome to hear. Like, I mean, look, like it's part of the risk of being, so early in things, is that you never know how it's gonna go. But being early also has massive advantages and massive first mover advantages as you figure things out, and as people come along, they're gonna be able to start figuring out, what this stuff is, and you're gonna have been through it. I always say, like, the analogy I make is I played poker My first job out of school was playing poker before I had like a real job. And the reason was because my friends and I played poker before it was popular in the United States. So we had thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hands ahead of people and knew the odds, knew the numbers, knew everything by heart. And then when the rest of the world came on, we had this giant head start and we knew how to play. And it was more than, it wasn't just luck to us. It was a game that we knew how to play. And I think in a similar fashion, fashion, whoops. I think in a similar fashion, you look at like this world and it's like, as people come into the blockchain world and they come into NFTs, those who are here and have the reps and stick through it and stick through the bear and deal with it, they're going to have just a massive, massive advantage over everybody else because they're going to have gone through the technology. They know what works. They're going to learn the market dynamics. Because marketing and understanding Web3 is very different than marketing and understanding, other industries. I know it's getting late over in Paris, so I don't want to hold this for too much longer. But I do think maybe we'll go about 5 more minutes. Quick reminder to everybody, just to let people know, retweet that tweet at the top, up in the Jumbotron, that Clubhouse Archives won, chance to win a Clubhouse Archives NFT. That's a 0.35 value. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're following Eyes of Fashion. Make sure you're following James Clubhouse Archives. Clubhouse Archives Mint is still live. You can buy with a credit card. You can buy with ETH. So either one work. I guess just to give us a close down, sort of any closing thoughts on the future overall. I'll throw to you, James, first, and then we'll go to Island next. But like any closing thoughts on sort of where we're going from an NFT perspective, or where the world is going in Web3 as a whole, not just fashion, but like what you see coming down the pike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously big into loyalty programs and membership NFTs. I mean, basically, at the end of the day, that's what we are. We're selling membership passes into our ecosystem because we believe that is the future of NFTs. And I think Starbucks is going to tell us all to hold their beer soon when they drop their loyalty program and the things that they're going to do there. I'm sure that's going to include a host of opportunities that are going to open the eyes of many individuals outside of the space, all these Fortune 500s that are definitely paying attention, that are then going to say, hey, well, we're going to do our loyalty program now using the blockchain. So I think loyalty programs and membership NFTs are probably going to be the front runners. And that's gonna run the gamut of industries, right? And then I think just behind them is things like ticketing and real estate and some of these other things that we know the blockchain is going to be great for. One of the big ticketing companies is going to come in and probably going to do something with token proof or one of these companies that's got great technologies out right now. So that's just where my mind immediately goes and what I've been thinking about lately. I'm sure I'm missing things. So I'm sure there's some other things to add there.
I hear I see a lot of hundreds coming from Ada, and I wanted to go back your way and kind of get your take here. Similarly, future of Web3 in general, like you're in the space, you've been dabbling around, you have a very good understanding of it, maybe even a different perspective from across the pond. So where do you think the future of this thing is going?
Well, first, don't worry about the timing. It's funny because in when we were in banking, there's market hours, right? By 4 p.m. we were done. Well, we were dealing with the U.S. timing, but in crypto it's 24 hours. So we're and Web3, so we're used to it. Don't worry. But I wanted, from what I've seen, is for me is the power that this technology can bring to any brand, small, medium, multinational, global brand, uh, as to what they can do with their community, how they can build engagement, how they can build intimacy with not the client that is now a community member that takes part into what you're doing, feels connected with what you're doing. Many times is being part of the process of what we want to do. So I feel that that's so powerful and so special, and I think that it's something that will help not only small brands but struggling artists to make a living, to get their art out. It's a great platform to do it. It's a great space to do it. Also, because those judgment barriers that we see in industries like fashion, they don't really we don't see them that strongly as we used to see them in the real world. Another thing that I'm very excited about, and I think we spoke about this in one of the Fashion Fridays with Clubhouse Archives, is what would happen when other platforms outside of Instagram and Discord, like I mean, sort of Twitter and Discord, like Instagram, becomes involved in a good way, in a heavy way, in a way that, because I'm posting stories all the time about Web3 and NFTs, and some people ask, some people probably just pass them. They still don't get it, but when they start to see Starbucks coming out with an NFT, Samsung already did, Lacoste did, like all these brands that we kind of use somehow, we're more familiar with, and Instagram takes into as a center stage, I think there's going to be big opportunities there.
No, I think it's a really thoughtful, thoughtful way of going about it too, as far as like saying like, and I think you both kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit with, as more big brands come into the space, like that's where we're going to see a lot of the movement. That's where we're going to see a lot of people coming in. And that's where a lot of these, I think, Web3 native brands will continue to win, like yourselves and what you're working on, because I think that that's where people say, oh, okay, I get it. This is, this is the people who know what they're doing here. They're going to come in and, because I think only so many large brands can come in, because some of them have whiffed, and you can only come in and whiff so many times before you need to get the assistance of the people who know. It's another one of those things of first mover advantage. I am going to draw the winner on the contest. And while I'm doing that, just again, a quick plug for Clubhouse. Thanks to everybody for joining us here as we've been going. Click on Clubhouse Archives, give them a follow, and if you're interested in fashion, you're interested in fashion in NFTs, it's a good NFT to mint. You're going to get one free garment with it off the bat, which is pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome sweatshirt, so that's helping you out right there. So definitely a must. And the Hodl sweatshirt, I believe by the first week of September, if you haven't minted, you won't get the Hodl sweatshirt. You'll get another one, but you're going to want that Hodl sweatshirt. So recommend going to there, minting. You can use credit card, or you can use your ETH wallet as normal for most people in this world. Go ahead, James.
I was going to throw something in there. So yeah, September 1 closes the ability to be in on the development and to get the hold on for dear life, the Hodl sweatshirt. And we need to remember there's going to be NFC chips embedded in all of our physical products. Those NFC chips verify the NFT, but they lead to a URL. So I want everyone to just think about that for a minute. It leads to a URL. That URL can be updated to contain anything. So I'll kind of leave you with the message that the sweatshirt that we initially create will have very significant value in the long run. And we can kind of leave things at that. So that does close out for any Genesis Pass that is held up to September 1. Now, after that, they'll still get a free garment. It'll be the next item that we work on, or from the first collection that we work on as a community. But I did want to throw that out there, that there will be significance to kind of having some of the firsts, if you will, within the Clubhouse Archives ecosystem.
Great. No, that's cool. Give it a try. So give it a look. Like I said, it's 0.35. So if you're interested in fashion, it's a super great place. Stoked everyone who joined us today. Like, we appreciate that. I'm drawing a winner now real quick as I do that. And the winner is...
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm just saying I'm very excited. Drum roll.
drum roll. It is ZV. I'm gonna post the confirmation in the reply. ZV down there with the lovely purple moonbird clue. Great. I actually just followed you back, and I will tag you in the tweet as well. But if you want to send me your ETH address, Z, I just followed you, so you should be able to send me a DM just with your ETH address, and we'll get you that free Clubhouse Archives NFT, and send you the link to the Discord to join, and you can pop in there and ask any questions you need. Congratulations on winning that, and thanks for the retweet. Like I said, I'll post the Apsoros proof in the reply. But thanks to everybody for coming today. I think it was a solid hour with two really great thought leaders in the space. Just bringing something to the table that I think very few people are. Ida, number one, thank you for your leadership and, doing what you're doing. James, thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you both for your time. I know you said it's 24/7, but I know it's midnight in Paris. So I will let you get to sleep. Any last words before we pop off
Thank
from
you.
either of you?
Thank you, everybody, especially both of you, for the support, to projects like ours. And I'm sure we'll be doing lots of stuff in the future. And thank you, all the holders and people listening today. Without you, you are the force. You are that energy that keeps going. And Steve, I'm actually jumping into another call with the Accessories Council in New York, so it continues. We
Oh,
don't.
the grind doesn't sleep, as they say. James, any last words before we close it down?
Ada, that's wow. That's I commend you. That's incredible. Um, just congrats to ZV and I just kind of scrolled down through and noticed some familiar faces. So I always like to shout them out. Punter and Chris and Joe and Ian K and Carla and Nicholas and I believe that's Matthew behind the Jing Daily and Web3 Adam and just everyone. And I see Greg. I see you there as well. Everyone could choose to do something else with their night, but you've chosen to spend it with us, and I appreciate the fact that you continue to support and do that. And I can't believe that you're up and on to another call. Fashion never sleeps, and it is a grind. And if people knew kind of the hours we put in, they'd probably scratch their heads. But we love what we do, so that's why we do it. But just kudos and thanks to you, Steve, again, for coming on here and doing such a wonderful job. I really do appreciate you as well.
No, appreciate you and appreciate both you and your leadership. Everybody, again, thanks for stopping by and congrats again to ZV. Got your address, so I'll send it to James and we'll get you that along with a link to the Discord. Thanks for coming by and have a wonderful, wonderful night, everybody.